In just over 2 months, Ontarians go to the polls again. And in small and mid-sized cities, one of the big issues is bound to be how to keep Main Street successful even as the retail and industrial underpinnings of regional economies change. Here to share his city's experience, Chris Friel, Mayor of Brantford, Ontario. Welcome. Hello, Your Worship.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, should I call you Mayor Friel?
You know what? Honestly, call
What
me
do you
Chris.
prefer?
Just call me Chris.
Just
Call me Mayor Chris. That would be good too.
Okay, great. It's nice to have you here. For somebody who's watching the show who doesn't really understand what a Main Street is, how would you describe Main Street, Ontario?
You know, if you had asked me that question 25 years ago, I probably could have told you something different. But the last 25 years has been an evolution. But Main Street is really still the heart of the downtown, or of usually in a downtown, and then it's the heart of the city. You should have commercial, residential, you have a lot of activity, and you really want to have that sense in a community that you have a strong, vibrant Main Street.
Well, you're here to talk to us about your city, Brantford, Ontario, and we would like to show a map so people know where it is. Brantford, Ontario is 100 kilometers southwest of Toronto. It's close to Kitchener, Hamilton, and the U.S. border. It has a population of 98,996. It is 99.63 square kilometers in size. It has 10 city councillors. And you first served as mayor from 1994 to 2003, and then you served again from 2010 to the present.
Right.
And you actually once described Brantford as having the worst downtown in Canada.
Yeah, and we did.
What was wrong? What was going on there?
We were abnormally large downtown because we were a very, very large industrial community for even with our population for a long period of time. And our downtown reflected that. So we had areas, Colburn Street, which is considered to be would be considered our main street. We had 43 pretty much empty buildings that were in, a lot of them pre-Confederation, Confederation. They just didn't have a lot going for them. And Brantford, we had a different scenario too, because Colburn Street, they're built into the bank of an old lake bed, and they used to be 7 stories down the back and a barge turnaround from the 1840s, 50s. And there used to be canals and everything that ran along the back of our building. So they were designed in a very particular way and very hard to manage.
Well, when that happens to a city like Brantford, what does that do to the psyche of the community there? It
really takes it away. You become defeated based on the downtown. I say if you've got a block of 6, 7 buildings, and you have 2 of them that are empty, it's like bad teeth or rotten apples. It spreads, and you have to be very, very conscious of that and looking at that.
And right now it's changed. It's very different. Brantford is on a lot of lists as one of the best places to live in Ontario. How do you feel about being one of the clogs, I guess, that made that happen?
Me personally?
Yes, as mayor, when you were...
you know what, I don't know that I could, other than the vision and the drive and the fact I never take no for an answer, or sometimes yes isn't even the right answer, but it's the community. You have to draw in everybody. You have to have your Chamber of Commerce. You have to have your media on side with you. You have to have the businesses that are in the area, and then your council has to be on board as well. So it's impossible for a community to really work or function on its downtown without having all of those factors at play.
Now, how would you describe Brantford, Ontario, for someone who's never been there?
We have the most revitalized and probably the most invested downtown of any community of our size in this province. And we attracted Laurier Brantford in 1999. So it was Wilfrid Laurier University, we call it Laurier Brantford. And then Nipissing, and now Conestoga College is coming in a big way as well. So we have an urban campus, 3,000 students downtown. And then that creates all these residential opportunities, that creates all these commercial opportunities. And we're just seeing growth and activity in the downtown. We've got 2 apartment buildings that are on the books right now that people are starting to identify that we need to be able to have more residential, people living in that kind of space. And And we had always thought, for the longest time, we thought we're never going to see that kind of activity. But just in the last 2 or 3 years, because of how successful we've been, now we have these developers that are coming in going, okay, we want to put a condo apartment here. We want to get involved more.
How do you balance, I read an article about Burlington, Ontario, where businesses that had been there for a very long time they now felt like they were being pushed out by developers of condominiums. So how do you balance, wanting this new development while trying to keep the old charm of the main street?
See, this comes down to, can I be critical of the past government?
Of course.
This comes down to the density and intensification numbers that everybody's being hit with. So for our downtown, we have about 2,600 residents, and we have about 5,000 people who work downtown every day. If we were to hit the density intensification numbers that the province of Ontario laid out for us, for our downtown alone, we would have to add 12,000 people. So how do you go from 2,000 residents and then 5,000 people during the day, which is the job? So 7,000, you've got to almost double that. Again, or add 2/3, I guess. But it's ridiculous the amount of what we're being told we have to do. And honestly, if we were to hit those density or intensification numbers, if Burlington were to do it, and I know Mayor Goldring, we sit at the Large Urban Caucus together at AMO, so we see each other often, and he and I have had this exact conversation. If you hit those density numbers, you literally will destroy that community, that neighborhood of the downtown. It is not functional to take Toronto-based density numbers that are designed for the GTHA, which the entire province is, but designed for the GTHA, and then try and put it into communities all around.
It's not the same thing.
They don't work.
Well, you're on the board of the Association of Municipalities Ontario. Just to pick up on what you were just saying, can you tell us what challenges the main streets in this province currently face?
You're seeing the commercial developments outside on the suburbs, hitting the highways. That is where people's patterns are now, by way of shopping. So you're not going to see a community like ours with 100,000. You're not going to see it return to a commercial hub the way that it used to be. But 10 minutes down the road from us is Paris, Ontario, which is a community of 13,000, prettiest little town in Ontario. And quite honestly...
Well, next to Brantford, right?
It's the prettiest little town. They're 13. We're large urban, but and they also have simply the best patio at Stillwaters of any patio in this province, bang on guaranteed. So, but they have a main street that is still healthy and happy and vibrant. They've been able to put commercial on the outside, but the reason they can keep it together is because they've got a large urban center right next to them. So a lot of that activity just goes to Brantford. So they can keep a lovely little main street, and with full buildings, a lot of local, it's predominantly local there. So you can see it in smaller communities where it is we're much more able to see downtowns survive and grow and thrive the way that people traditionally think of them. But now with larger municipalities, we struggle to even manage. Large commercial groups don't want to go downtown in the same way. With a university population, we were able to get even a Tim Hortons started showing up. The Works, the hamburger place, started showing up. But then there was also a lot more, many more local businesses that opened up. And sitting on the AMO board, you see communities in the east and in the north that are trying to deal with the same kinds of issues, but they're not going to have the same kind of growth patterns that we see being as close to the GTHA. So they have to really get into a position of being able to maintain that smaller feel, that charm that goes along with it.
Now, with all the development that's happening in Brantford, are there heritage buildings in the city that you want to save?
There's a number of heritage buildings downtown that are designated. We're in the middle of having a discussion about a building. There's an apartment that wants to go up. There's a very old building, it was originally a house, and it's going to come down. It's in terrible shape. It's been allowed to deteriorate. In that situation, we allow it. But when even talking about the density and intensification numbers from the province, it means we're tearing down buildings. There's no way to meet those targets without ripping out your heritage and putting in apartment buildings all through the downtown.
Some people might not understand why there would be a need to save heritage buildings. What would you say?
Well, I mean, we have the first long-distance telephone call was between Brantford and Paris, Alexander Graham Bell. We have all of these connections and buildings, and some of them, for us, we have the federal building, which was built in 1913, large federal building, community of our size. We just purchased it to turn it into the new city hall. It's a designated building. We wanted to protect it. And instead of allowing it to deteriorate or to go off and get cut up into apartment buildings, etc., we wanted to repurpose it for that kind of use again. The oldest building in the downtown is now a pub. It was a blacksmith shop. It was 1848 that it was built originally. You can still go into the basement and see the logs that were used.
The history of that building, yeah.
And I am a history nut. I mean, everybody in the city knows that I know the history of the community. I should have got my degree in history instead of political science. So I know the buildings. I know, and there are some just lovely buildings that are so simple to repurpose now. And I think a lot of people get this thing with heritage buildings where it's like, old building, tear it down. Can't be saved. But you can repurpose these buildings for cheaper and have add another 100 years to it. It's remarkable to be able to say that you can accomplish that. So keeping the heritage and I think the culture particular to your downtown. So our cottage is north of Parry Sound. Lumberjack Days, Bobby Orr Museum at the Stockley. It's outside of the downtown, but we go downtown all the time. And I insist on it because I'm a municipal politician, but you go in there and they reflect their history and their culture, and they still have the train bridge going over. Everything you love about that community is they've respected their culture and where they came from. And it's when communities get away from that, where they think they want to be something else. Okay, we've got to be a 21st century city now, so we're all going high tech. And
you miss the charm, right?
But you also miss the foundation of what got you there originally, and you have to build on that foundation. You can't just cut it off all of a sudden and say, we're going in a completely different direction.
What about public spaces?
Well, public spaces was a big deal for me because we lost our civic square when in the 80s, the provincial government, whoever that was at the time, Bill Davis, I think, developed a program called the ODRP, which was the Ontario Downtown Redevelopment Program. And 7 malls were set up in downtowns. So we got one, Kitchener-Waterloo got one, I think Guelph got one, and I can't, Sarnia. So there's a whole bunch of communities that had been struggling. And taking a suburban concept, which is an island of shopping surrounded by a sea of parking, and sticking it in the middle of the downtown, and expecting people to want to go into the mall without any parking immediately adjacent to it, all of them failed within nothing flat, and they all had to be converted into something else. So in that case, that mall's been bought by Laurier Brantford, and they're converting it into student space and other space that goes along with it.
What about parks? Because I would think they play an important part.
And I was going to go to the next part, which is once we lost that square, I got really focused on finding another civic square. We had a nice area. So 10 years ago, we were finally able to create what we call Harmony Square. It's a multi-purpose space, splash pad in the summer, ice rink in the winter. We have a stage that goes along with it. There are patios along each side of it so people can come to events. We just had the 10th anniversary, ran for 2 days. We had thousands of people come out.
Well, how important is something like a Harmony Square? How important is it to the life of a main street?
Civic places, and in this day and age, people would say, and I know there's lots of tech people out there who would go, well, it's all social media now. That's the marketplace. That's how people communicate. And what we found was the more people distance themselves with technology, we started seeing our attendance at events just go up and up and up. So I think people are feeling that distance with the technology, and they want that space again. They want to go out and enjoy a movie on a Thursday night, which we put out or music on a Friday night, which we do in Harmony Square. They want to go and be somewhere. They want to be social. And Harmony Square was one of the things that I think physically was one of the key changes in the downtown.
Now, for a lot of Main Street, the businesses are small businesses.
Yes.
You mentioned that you had a Tim Hortons and the Works, a burger joint.
Yeah.
So when these places move into your
We have
Main
lots
Street,
more than just those.
well, those are just the ones that you mentioned. So when they come into the Main Street, does that make the community better, or does it take something away from what it was before?
I find it to be interesting that we look at those stores as a mark of success, and yet I would rather look at restaurants that have been there for 20 years, that have been working away, and our institutions, you know,
Who've
like
kept
I said,
the businesses going. Yeah,
that's right. And they stayed in there.
Yeah. I understand a new Costco's coming, right?
We're in discussions with the developer to have a Costco on the highway.
Okay. Are big box stores a threat to your Main Street?
Ours now, no. But that's only, particular to our community, because we've already gone through that suburban mall structure. So, and we have one of those highway strips. Actually, it's the 24 for us, and if you go up farther to Cambridge, it's the 24 for them too. But for a community that is tourist-based, population of say 30 or 40,000 people, you have those large box stores come into your community, and you are going to take out your businesses.
Well, this year the province is investing $26 million towards what they're calling a Main Street Revitalization Initiative. How will it work? Do you know?
I do.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
I am, to some degree. I'm not really enamored with the proposals, the way that they're being presented, because it's right back to some of the ideas in the 90s. So we're getting, in our case, we're getting money. We're looking at...
How will Brantford benefit from it?
I think it's $115,000 off the top of my head. I think that's what it is. But we're looking at maybe we'll do free Wi-Fi. But like now we're in a situation where we got to deal with garbage, because the population has grown up so much that, and it used to be daily garbage, but now we can't do that anymore. So now we've got to centralize garbage. We'd rather spend money on those kinds of things. We got traffic issues we've got to deal with. There's a whole bunch of other things. This stuff is nice, and I know a lot of communities are going to go, okay, well, let's fix up such and such a park, and we'll get some nice park benches, and we'll do all of those kinds of things. It doesn't start revitalization. It is nice to have. It's nice to be able to improve certain areas, but you've got to get to the foundation of what your community is and what you're able to accomplish in that area. And nice sidewalks, don't put bricks in. God, please, every community that goes near this, do not brick your sidewalks. It is accessibility, it is the worst. So, and those are the kinds of things that people go for. But, so, you know, in our case, too, so we're seeing a $64 million YMCA Laurier Athletic Complex being built on the south side of Colburn Street. Some of those buildings were taken down. It's being built into the bank, but then it's going to have a streetscape, so it's going to have two faces to it. That kind of thing, the daily activity, the people who are coming down there for programming, who are dropping their kids off, who are coming to work out, that's what you want. That's where you want to see that kind of activity, because you need people coming in here. A nice bench isn't going to bring population, and it's not going to help with the residential. It's not going to help with all of the other issues that you have to deal with. And it's really getting people into your downtown, living there, not just working 9 to 5. And I'm still a huge fan. And I think for downtowns, the model that was original is still the best, which is commercial on the main floor, and then whoever owns the commercial lives on the next 2 floors.
Mixed-use buildings.
Yeah. And that's what we started with, because it was logical. That's what you did. You built and then you lived. You just walked downstairs to go to your business.
No commute. We have a new government in Queen's Park. What else should be done at that level, the provincial level, to help maintain the health of Main Streets?
I would say, and I would say this I've worked with the NDP, the provincial Harris Liberal now, and then another PC government. I would say that the biggest issue that both ministers and governments and the bureaucracy have is get your asses out of Toronto. This is not Ontario. The GTHA is not Ontario. The 401 corridor and the 400 corridor in the summer, because all the ministers want to go up to their cottages, is not Ontario. Ontario is a much bigger area, but God forbid anybody make it past, in our case, the southwestern Ontario. We're the leading edge, we're the eastern edge of it, or I guess in that case, coming from Toronto Western, but we never see anybody. And if you get a minister to come, it's only to make an announcement and you get a couple minutes and you get whatever else. How do we explain this about our community?
So they need to be more involved outside of
They need to
this area.
understand what's happening outside of Toronto. Like the density intensification numbers that are being applied to our community and the outer band community, or outer ring. So we like to call ourselves, so it's us down to Niagara, Kitchener-Waterloo, Barrie, Kingston on the east. We're the outer band. And we get part of the Golden Horseshoe activity, so that's where we get these density numbers. They don't work. They won't work in our communities because there's no understanding from the bureaucracy of what the nature of these communities are, and they don't listen to us. They design programs and then say, okay, now fit it to your community. Instead of allowing us to go, okay, there might be 6 different styles of community we have to talk about here. We've got large urban, we've got small rural, we've got small northern, we've got medium-sized east, all of these things. Listen to us. Somebody in Queen's Park listen to municipalities directly.
And I hope someone's watching and they do take to heart what you're saying.
And AMO does a great job. I mean, I feel at times that the government uses AMO to not have to talk to other communities.
The Association of Municipalities
of Ontario, yes.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Friel.
That was it?
That was it. We've run out of time.
Okay.
We've run out of time. But if you do run in the fall, we wish you luck.
My papers are in, so I'm ready to go.
Best of luck, and thank you for being here and showing us why Main Streets matter.
Okay,
thanks.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.